She was 19 when her father sold her like livestock at an auction. 19 when she learned that love could be bought, traded, and weaponized. 19 when she stepped into the marble halls of the Arslan estate and realized that some prisons come wrapped in silk and gold. This is the story of Leyla Demir, a girl who became a pawn in a game she never chose to play. And this is the story of Kaan Arslan, a man who turned his heart to stone and called it justice. But somewhere between hatred and obligation, between revenge and redemption, something unexpected began to grow. Something that would either destroy them both or set them free. The car moved through Istanbul's evening streets like a shadow, silent and inevitable. Leyla pressed her forehead against the cool window, watching the city lights blur into streams of gold and amber. Behind her lay everything she had known. A cramped apartment that smelled of her mother's jasmine perfume, a university acceptance letter she would never use, friends whose faces were already fading from memory. Ahead lay only uncertainty wrapped in her father's final words, spoken with eyes that couldn't meet hers. "You'll have everything you need. He's a wealthy man. You should be grateful." Grateful. The word tasted like poison. The gates opened without sound, revealing a world Leyla had only seen in magazines. The Arslan estate rose against the night sky like something from an Ottoman dream, all white stone and arched windows, with gardens that seemed to stretch into eternity. Fountains whispered in the darkness. Lanterns cast dancing shadows on pathways lined with roses whose perfume was almost suffocating in its sweetness. The driver opened her door. Leyla stepped out on trembling legs, her single suitcase held before her like a shield. The autumn air carried the scent of the Bosphorus, salt and seaweed mixing with jasmine. She could hear the water in the distance, that ancient strait that divided continents, and felt terribly alone. "Miss Demir, please follow me." The woman who spoke was perhaps 50, dressed entirely in black, her gray hair pulled into a severe bun. Her face showed no emotion, no curiosity, nothing that might suggest she saw Leyla as anything more than another piece of furniture being delivered. "I'm Elif, the head housekeeper. I will show you to your room. The master wishes to see you in his study at 9 o'clock. You have 1 hour to prepare yourself." Leyla wanted to ask 1,000 questions. Instead, she simply nodded and followed Elif through doors that seemed designed for giants. The interior of the mansion took her breath away. Crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings painted with scenes from mythology. The floors were polished marble that reflected her frightened face back at her. Ancient tapestries covered walls between oil paintings that probably cost more than her father's debts. Those debts. 5 million lira. Gambling, bad investments, borrowed money from the wrong people. And when the collectors came, Hasan Demir had nothing left to offer but his daughter. Her room was larger than her entire apartment had been. A 4-poster bed dominated the space, draped in cream silk. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Bosphorus, where boats traced lines of light across the dark water. There was a bathroom of white marble and gold fixtures, a walk-in closet already filled with clothes she had never seen, and a sitting area with chairs that looked too expensive to use. Dinner is served at 8 each evening in the main dining room. Breakfast at 7 in the morning room. You are free to explore the gardens and the library. The West Wing is private. Do not enter it without permission. Elif paused at the door, and for just a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Was it pity? The master is not a cruel man, miss. But he is not a kind one either. Remember your place, and your time here will pass more easily. Then she was gone, and Leyla was alone in her beautiful cage. She did not unpack. Instead, she stood at the window and counted the minutes until 9 o'clock, each one feeling like an hour. When the clock on the mantel finally chimed, she made herself walk down the stairs, through corridors that seemed to multiply in the shadows, until she found the study. The door was solid oak, carved with patterns that might have been flowers or might have been flames. She knocked once. Twice. Enter. The voice was deep, edged with something cold and sharp. Leyla pushed open the door. The study was a room of leather and wood and shadows. Bookshelves climbed the walls, filled with volumes in Turkish, English, and languages she could not name. A fire crackled in a stone fireplace, throwing restless light across Persian rugs. And behind a massive desk of dark wood sat the man who now owned her. Kaan Arslan did not look like a monster. He was handsome in a way that seemed almost cruel, all sharp angles and intensity. Black hair, dark eyes that missed nothing, a jaw that could have been carved from granite. He wore a suit that probably cost more than a car, perfectly tailored to shoulders that suggested he was no stranger to physical work despite his obvious wealth. He was perhaps in his early 30s, though something in his eyes looked much, much older. He did not stand when she entered. Did not smile. Did not acknowledge her beyond a single, assessing glance that made her feel like something being examined for defects. Sit. Leyla sat in the chair across from his desk, her hands folded in her lap to hide their shaking. The silence stretched between them like a living thing. The fire popped. The clock ticked. Kaan Arslan simply watched her with those dark, unreadable eyes. Finally, he spoke. Do you know why you are here? My father's debts. Your father's debts, he repeated, and something flickered across his face too quickly to read. 5 million lira. Plus interest. Plus the cost of his broken promises and lies. Your father, Hasan Demir, is a man who destroys everything he touches. The use of her first name felt strangely intimate and invasive at once. I know what he is, she whispered. Do you? Kaan leaned forward slightly, his fingers steepled before him. Do you know that he gambled away your mother's medical fund while she was dying? Do you know that he borrowed from men who break bones for sport? Do you know that when I offered him a way out, a clean slate, all he had to do was deliver you to me like a package, he didn't hesitate for even a moment? Each word was a knife, precise and cutting. Leyla felt tears burning behind her eyes but refused to let them fall. She would not cry. Not here. Not in front of this man who looked at her like she was a chess piece, not a person. What do you want from me? Kaan sat back, his expression unchanging. 3 years. You will live in this house as my wife in name only. You will appear at my side at social events. You will play the role of the devoted spouse. You will ask no questions about my business. You will not attempt to leave or contact anyone from your former life. In return, you will have every material comfort. At the end of 3 years, if you have fulfilled your obligations, you will be free to go with enough money to start whatever life you choose. And if I refuse? Your father goes to prison. Or worse. The men he owes are not patient, and they are not forgiving. You are all that stands between him and a very painful end. It was not a choice. It had never been a choice. I understand. Good. Kaan pulled a document from his desk drawer and slid it across to her. Read this. Sign it. Your room has been prepared. Elif will provide you with everything you need. We will have dinner together each evening at 8. I expect punctuality and appropriate dress. Do not disappoint me, Leyla. She took the contract with numb fingers, scanning words that might as well have been written in a foreign language. 3 years. 3 years of her life signed away. She found a pen on his desk and wrote her name at the bottom, each letter feeling like a small death. Kaan took the document back without comment and placed it in a drawer that he locked with a small key. You may go. Dinner is in 30 minutes. Do not be late. Leyla stood on legs that barely supported her and walked to the door. She had almost reached it when his voice stopped her. Leyla. She turned. For just a moment, something crossed his face. Something that might have been regret or might have been satisfaction. Then it was gone, replaced by that same cold mask. Welcome to your new home. The door closed behind her with a sound like a cell locking, the first week passed like a dream painted in shades of gray. Leyla woke each morning to sunlight streaming through windows that overlooked a city she could see but not touch. She ate breakfast alone on a terrace where peacocks wandered freely, their cries echoing across manicured lawns. She walked through rooms filled with priceless art and felt nothing but the weight of her own footsteps. Kaan was a ghost in his own home. She saw him only at dinner, where they sat at opposite ends of a table long enough to seat 20. He ate in silence, his eyes on his plate or on documents he brought with him. He never asked about her day. Never commented on the weather or the food or anything at all. When the meal ended, he would rise without a word and disappear into the depths of the mansion, leaving her alone with the echoing silence. Elif was her only regular companion, though the housekeeper spoke only when necessary. The master prefers his coffee black. The master does not like loud noises after 10. The master has guests arriving Friday evening. Always the master, never Kaan, as if using his name might somehow humanize him. On the fourth day, Leyla discovered the library. It was tucked away in the east wing, a circular room with walls of books that climbed 3 stories high. A spiral staircase of wrought iron connected the levels, and windows of stained glass cast colored shadows across reading chairs that looked like they had not been used in years. She pulled books at random, running her fingers over spines in Turkish, English, French, Arabic. She found poetry by Rumi and novels by Orhan Pamuk, philosophy texts and ancient histories. This room, at least, felt alive. She was reading in one of the high-backed chairs, her legs tucked beneath her, when Ice found her. The young maid could not have been more than 22, with kind eyes and a smile that seemed out of place in this house of shadows. She carried a tray with tea and small pastries shaped like crescents. "Miss Leyla, I thought you might be hungry. You barely touched your lunch." It was the first time anyone had addressed her with simple kindness. Leyla felt something crack inside her chest. "Thank you. Please, won't you sit for a moment?" Ice glanced toward the door nervously. "I should not. Elif says we are not to disturb you." "I'm asking you to disturb me. Please. I would welcome the company." The girl hesitated, then perched on the edge of a nearby chair. The library was the late mistress's favorite room. She would spend hours here, reading to her sons. Sons? I thought Kaan had no family. Ice's face clouded. He had a brother once. Karam. But that was before the accident. Before everything changed. What accident? The girl stood quickly, her face pale. "I have said too much. Please, miss, do not mention this to the master. He does not speak of the past." She hurried away before Leyla could ask more, leaving behind only the cooling tea and 100 new questions. That evening at dinner, Leyla found herself studying Kaan with new eyes. She looked for signs of grief, of loss, of anything human beneath that perfect mask. He ate his soup with mechanical precision. He signed papers between courses. He did not look at her once. "Did you have a brother?" The question escaped before she could stop it. Kaan's hand froze halfway to his water glass. The silence that followed was terrible, thick enough to suffocate. When he finally moved again, it was to set down his fork with exaggerated care. "What have you been told?" "Nothing. Just that you once had family." "I once had many things." His voice was soft, but there was danger in it, like silk wrapped around a blade. "I would advise you not to concern yourself with matters that do not involve you. I live in your house. I carry your name. How does your past not involve me?" He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against marble. "You live in my house because you are purchased goods. You carry my name because it serves my purposes. Beyond that, you are owed nothing. Not explanations. Not conversation. Not even common courtesy. You would do well to remember that." He left without finishing his meal, his footsteps echoing through the mansion like gunshots. Leyla sat alone at the enormous table, her appetite gone, but something new burning in her chest. Anger. After days of numbness, of silent acceptance, she felt genuinely angry. She would not apologize. She had done nothing wrong. The next day, she woke early and explored further than she had dared before. The mansion was a labyrinth of corridors and closed doors, but Leyla was tired of being confined to approved spaces. She climbed stairs that seemed to lead nowhere, pushed open doors that revealed rooms under dust covers, walked through galleries lined with portraits of people whose eyes seemed to follow her progress. It was in the West Wing, the forbidden wing, that she found the garden. It was not the manicured perfection of the front grounds. This was something wild and forgotten, enclosed by high walls covered in climbing roses that had grown unpruned for years. Stone pathways wound between overgrown beds of herbs and flowers. A fountain stood silent in the center, its basin filled with fallen leaves. And there, on a bench beneath an ancient fig tree, was a photograph in a silver frame. Leyla picked it up with careful hands. The image showed a family. A beautiful woman with kind eyes and dark hair. A man with Kaan's same strong jaw. And two boys, one perhaps 15, the other maybe 10. The older boy had Kaan's face, younger and unguarded, smiling at the camera with genuine joy. The younger had softer features, a mischievous grin. That does not belong to you. Leyla spun around. Kaan stood in the garden entrance, and for the first time since she had met him, his composure was cracked. His jaw was tight. His hands were clenched at his sides. His eyes blazed with something that might have been rage or might have been pain. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude. This garden is forbidden. Did a leaf not make that clear? She did. I should not have come here. No, you should not have. He crossed the space between them in 3 long strides and took the photograph from her hands. This room. This garden. They are not for you. I understand. Do you? He looked down at the photograph, and something in his expression shifted. The anger drained away, leaving only exhaustion. This was my mother's garden. She planted every flower. Chose every stone. She would sit on that bench and read to us. Poetry mostly. Rumi. Hafiz. She believed that beautiful words could make beautiful souls. Leyla hardly dared to breathe. This was the most he had ever spoken to her about anything real. She sounds wonderful. She was. Kaan set the photograph back on the bench with infinite care. And then she was gone. Along with my father. My brother. Everything that mattered. All because of men like your father. Men who lie and cheat and destroy without thought for the wreckage they leave behind. The pieces began to fall into place with horrible clarity. My father knew your family. Your father was my father's business partner. They built an empire together, or so the story went. What my father did not know was that Hasan Demir was stealing from him. Systematically. For years. When the truth came out, when the company collapsed, when the investors came calling for blood, your father vanished. Left my father to face the consequences alone. Kaan's voice was flat now, reciting facts like a coroner's report. My father could not bear the shame. He drove his car off a cliff with my mother beside him. My brother Karam was 17. He tried to hold things together, tried to save the family name. He worked himself sick trying to repay debts that were not his. He died of a heart attack at 21. And I was left alone to pick up the pieces. Leyla felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Of course you didn't know. You were a child. You are still barely more than a child. He finally looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time she saw past the ice to the grief beneath. But he knew. Your father knew what he had done. Knew the lives he had destroyed. And he never once expressed remorse. Never tried to make amends. He simply moved on to ruin other lives. So you bought me. As revenge. I bought you as justice. Your father took everything from me. Now I take everything from him. His daughter. His hope for the future. His chance at redemption. Let him live the rest of his life knowing he sold his only child to the son of the man he destroyed. Let that be his punishment. The cruelty of it took her breath away. And yet, looking at Kaan's hollow eyes, at the way he held himself like a man carrying an impossible weight, Leyla felt something unexpected. Pity. What happened to your family was terrible. Unforgivable. But keeping me here, using me as a weapon against my father, it won't bring them back. It won't heal anything. It will only create more pain. Good. The word was bitten off. Pain is all I have left. Pain and the satisfaction of knowing that Hasan Demir suffers. And what about me? Do I deserve to suffer for his sins? Kaan turned away. You are collateral damage. Nothing more. I'm a person. With dreams and hopes and a future that you've stolen. As I said, collateral damage. But his voice lacked conviction now. Leyla stepped closer, close enough to see the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw worked as if he were grinding teeth. I'm sorry for what my father did to your family. Truly. If I could undo it, I would. But I can't. All I can do is live with the consequences of his choices. Just as you are living with them. Kaan was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. Leave this garden. Do not come back here. And do not speak of this conversation again. It was not forgiveness. It was not understanding. But it was also not the cold dismissal she had come to expect. Leyla left the garden walking slowly, her mind spinning with this new knowledge. Behind her, she heard a sound that might have been a chair moving or might have been something else. Something that sounded almost like a man breaking. The gown arrived 3 days before the charity gala. It was delivered by a personal shopper from one of Istanbul's most exclusive boutiques, along with shoes, jewelry, and a woman whose only job seemed to be teaching Leyla how to walk in heels high enough to require engineering degrees. The master has requested you accompany him to the Bosphorus Foundation event, Elif explained as the shopper laid out options across Leyla's bed. This is an important evening. You will be introduced to society as his wife. Your appearance must be beyond reproach. Leyla stared at the dresses, each more beautiful and intimidating than the last. Deep emerald silk. Midnight blue velvet. And one in particular that seemed to glow in the afternoon light, a gown of silver fabric that shifted between gray and white depending on how the light struck it. That one, the shopper said, following Leyla's gaze. It was made for you. It was also backless, with a neckline that plunged lower than anything Leyla had ever worn. When she tried it on, she barely recognized herself in the mirror. The girl looking back was elegant, sophisticated, mysterious. A woman who belonged in Kaan Arslan's world. The night of the gala, ice helped her dress. The young maid had become something close to a friend in the weeks since their first meeting, though their conversations were always brief and carefully monitored. As she fastened the clasp of Leyla's necklace, a simple strand of diamonds that probably cost more than most people earned in a lifetime, she whispered, "You look like a princess from a storybook. I feel like an imposter." We are all imposters in one way or another. The trick is to believe your own performance. Kaan was waiting in the entrance hall when Leyla descended the stairs. He wore a tuxedo that transformed him from merely handsome to devastatingly beautiful. His hair was perfectly styled. His shoes gleamed. And when he looked up and saw her, he went completely still. For 3 heartbeats, neither of them moved. Leyla saw his eyes widen slightly, saw his lips part as if to speak, saw his hand grip the banister with enough force to whiten his knuckles. Then the moment passed, and the mask slid back into place. "You'll do," he said simply, and offered his arm. The gala was held in a restored Ottoman palace on the European side of the city. Hundreds of Istanbul's elite gathered in ballrooms lit by chandeliers that had witnessed the rise and fall of empires. Women in gowns worth small fortunes laughed behind champagne flutes. Men in tuxedos discussed business deals that would shape the city's future. And through it all, Kaan guided Leyla with a hand at the small of her back, the touch impersonal yet somehow burning through the thin fabric of her dress. "Smile," he murmured as they approached a group of older couples. "Look happy. We are newlyweds, remember." Leyla fixed a smile to her face and let herself be introduced to people whose names she would never remember. She said the right things, laughed at the right moments, played the role of the adoring young wife with a skill that surprised even herself. And through it all, she was acutely aware of Kaan beside her, his presence like gravity, impossible to escape. It was during a moment alone, while Kaan spoke with a business associate across the room, that Leyla overheard the conversation that changed everything. Two women stood near the windows, their backs to her, speaking in voices pitched just low enough to suggest privacy. "I cannot believe Kaan Arslan actually married her. Hasan Demir's daughter of all people. It makes perfect sense when you know the history. This is not about love. This is about revenge served cold. Still, to actually marry the daughter of the man who destroyed his family. That takes a special kind of cruelty. Or a special kind of pain. I remember when the Arslan family fell apart. Kaan was barely out of university. He watched his entire world collapse. His parents' deaths, his brother's breakdown, the scandal, everything. And all because Hasan Demir embezzled millions and ran. And now he has Demir's daughter as his trophy wife. I suppose there is poetry in it. Poetry or tragedy. That girl cannot be more than 20. She had nothing to do with her father's crimes. Sins of the father, my dear. They always fall on the children." Leyla turned away, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might crack through her ribs. She had known she was part of Kaan's revenge, but hearing it spoken aloud by strangers, hearing the pity in their voices, made it real in a way it had not been before. She found a balcony that overlooked the Bosphorus and stepped outside into the cool night air. The water below was dark, dotted with the lights of passing ferries. She could hear music and laughter from inside, but out here there was only the wind and the distant sound of the city. "You left." Leyla turned to find Kaan in the doorway. He had removed his jacket, and his bow tie hung loose around his neck. He looked tired in a way she had never seen him look before. "I needed air." He stepped onto the balcony, the door closing behind him. For a moment they stood in silence, two strangers bound by contract and grief, looking out at the water that divided continents. "I heard them talking," Leyla said finally. "About your family. About why you married me." Kaan's jaw tightened. "Does it matter? You already knew. Knowing and hearing are different things. When you told me in the garden, it was your pain. But hearing them discuss it like entertainment, like we are characters in a play performed for their amusement, that made it real. Welcome to my world. These people have discussed my family's tragedy at dinner parties for years. Our fall from grace was the scandal of the season." Leyla turned to face him fully. In the moonlight, he looked younger somehow, less like the marble statue he presented to the world and more like a man carrying wounds that had never properly healed. "Your mother would not want this," she said softly. "You know nothing about my mother. I know she loved poetry. I know she believed beautiful words could make beautiful souls. I know she planted that garden with her own hands so her sons would have somewhere peaceful to grow. And I know that if she could see you now, using another person's life as a weapon, she would be heartbroken." The words hung in the air between them like an accusation. Kaan's face went white, then red. He took a step toward her, and for a moment Leyla thought he might actually strike her. Instead, his hand slammed against the stone railing with enough force to split skin. You dare to speak about her? You, whose father destroyed her? Whose father killed her as surely as if he had pushed that car off the cliff himself? Yes, my father did terrible things. Unforgivable things. But I am not my father. Just as you are not your pain. You are choosing this revenge. Every day you choose it. And every day it makes you less of the man she raised you to be. Stop. Why should I stop? Because the truth hurts? Because you would rather hide behind your anger than face the fact that this revenge is destroying you as much as it is destroying me? I said stop. His voice cracked on the last word, and suddenly he was not angry anymore. He was broken. His hand slid from the railing, leaving a small smear of blood behind. His shoulders slumped. And when he looked at her, his eyes were wet. You don't understand. I have nothing else. The revenge is all I have left. Without it, without this purpose, I am just a man who lost everything and could not save anyone. Not my parents. Not my brother. No one. Leyla felt her own tears start to fall. She reached out before she could think better of it and placed her hand over his injured one. He flinched but did not pull away. You saved your family's company. Ice told me you rebuilt it from nothing. You employs hundreds of people. You donate to charities. You are not nothing, Kaan. You are not defined by what you lost. Then what am I defined by? By what you choose to do next. By whether you let this revenge consume you or whether you let it go. He looked down at their hands, his blood now on her fingers too. I don't know how to let it go. I have been angry for so long. It is the only thing keeping me alive. Then maybe it's time to find something else to live for. They stood like that for a long moment, hands touching, tears falling, the music from the gala a distant echo. When Kaan finally spoke, his voice was so quiet she almost missed it. I told myself you were just a tool. A means to an end. But you are not. You are brave and kind and you see through every defense I build. And that terrifies me more than anything. Leyla stepped closer. Why? Because if I let myself care about you, if I let myself feel anything other than anger, then I have to face everything I have been running from. All the grief. All the guilt. All the years I wasted hating when I should have been healing. You don't have to face it alone. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and she saw in his eyes a war being fought. The need for revenge against the possibility of something else. The safety of hatred against the risk of hope. The contract, he said slowly. 3 years. That was always a lie. I never intended to let you go. I know. You know? I suspected. A man who wants simple revenge does not buy a 3-year contract. He would have been satisfied with humiliation and release. You wanted to trap me because somewhere, deep down, you wanted to trap yourself too. You wanted to stay angry because anger is easier than grief. Kaan closed his eyes. You are too wise for 19. Suffering ages us all. When he opened his eyes again, something had shifted. The ice had not melted entirely, but there were cracks now, warm light showing through. If I released you from the contract tonight, would you stay? The question caught her off guard. Why would I stay? Because I am asking you to. Not as property. Not as revenge. But as yourself. Would you stay and help me learn how to be human again? Leyla felt her heart crack open. This was the moment. The choice that would define everything that followed. She could walk away. Take his offer of freedom and never look back. Or she could stay and wade into the complicated, messy, painful work of healing beside someone who had forgotten how. She thought of his mother's garden, wild and forgotten. She thought of the poetry books gathering dust. She thought of the way he had looked at that photograph, all his armor stripped away to reveal the grieving boy beneath. "I'll stay," she whispered. "But not as your wife in name only. If I stay, we do this honestly. We try to build something real. No more games. No more pretending. I don't know if I remember how to build anything that is not made of anger. Then we will learn together." Kaan reached up and cupped her face with his uninjured hand. His thumb brushed away a tear on her cheek. "You should run from me. I am still capable of terrible things. So am I. I stayed in a prison without fighting because it was easier than facing my father's crimes. I let myself become invisible because I was afraid of being seen. We have both been hiding, Kaan. But maybe we don't have to hide anymore." He leaned forward until his forehead rested against hers. They stood like that, breathing the same air, two damaged souls reaching for each other across the wreckage of their pasts. "This will not be easy," he warned. "Nothing worth having ever is." Inside, the gala continued. Outside, on a balcony overlooking water that had witnessed empires rise and fall, two people made a different choice. Not revenge. Not hatred. But the terrifying, hopeful possibility of beginning again. When they finally returned to the party, Kaan's hand found hers and held it, not as a performance, but as a promise. And when the night ended and they rode home through Istanbul's glittering streets, Leyla knew that something fundamental had changed.